You know, to really think about it, 700 really only comes around once. So we messed up.
Welcome back to the PC Perspective Podcast. And we've reached a milestone. It's not every podcast that can say we've had 700 episodes. I'm Sebastian Peak.
I'm Jeremy Holstrom.
I'm Brad Van Sperber.
And I'm Josh Walrath.
It's been a long time coming, and I haven't even talked to the team about this. I'm just going to announce it right now, live. Seat of my pants, Elon style. PC Perspective Podcast. When I title this episode on YouTube, I'm just going to call it PCPer Podcast.
My God, man.
I know.
You're insane.
I've been thinking about this for a while.
Oh.
When I think PC Perspective, I think PCPer, because that's our URL. Let's move to Laramie, Wyoming with Josh.
Uh-oh.
Let's live with Josh and eat
Vicariously.
delicious food. Please tell us about your food adventures.
Okay, well, this one, the owner of the place actually texted me and showed me the pictures of what it was. I mean, he cut me off at the pass. I was going to eventually call him, or maybe I wasn't. I don't know how I was feeling, but he sent me what this was, and I couldn't resist. I'm weak. It's called the Dirty Joe. Don't know why, but it's got green chilies, queso, smoked ham, a single beef patty, bacon, and chipotle mayo on the bun. The Dirty Joe. It's a super tasty burger. You look at that smoked ham.
Mm-hmm.
It's fantastic. It really offset the chilies nicely. And along with the base of the single locally sourced all beef patty with bacon. And of course, queso doesn't hurt anything except my arteries. But you know what? You only live once. Some things you just need to experience. And this is definitely one I needed to experience. So, well done, Born in a Barn. You're killing me one day at a time.
Are you guys ready to talk about
Guess what came out this week?
Oh my gosh, what happened today?
Well, another
What
giant
happened?
graphics card that costs a lot of money. And
Oh,
this time it's the RTX 4080. Now remember, we were originally going to have two flavors of the 4080, but upon its launch, of course, there is only the 16 gigabyte model. No 12.
There can be only one. There can be only one.
And right away, I'm just going to interrupt myself and the story and talk about AMD because, originally we're going to have a 16 and a 12 gigabyte card occupying this $900 to $1,200 range. And then AMD comes out and says, oh, by the way, 24 gigs for $1,000, 20 gigs for $900. This feels short on memory now, just after that announcement.
Mm-hmm.
Certainly at that price anyway. $11.99, if you can even find it for that, which, of course, we'll talk about availability and pricing.
Newegg had a couple of SKUs after an hour online. They disappeared, but they did have several SKUs that about an hour after launch were still there.
I was expecting these to stay in stock because I feel like the price is so high. It doesn't make any sense. And this morning,
Josh,
I checked after availability started. I think it was around 9:30 or something. I got home from taking my son to school. I'm like, oh, let's check Newegg. And it's like, oh, yeah, they're all in stock. Whatever. It's fine. But apparently, shortly after this, all but maybe two sold out. And then when I checked again later, they were all out of stock.
there might
the
be
crypto
one
bros
right
have
now.
to make their money back somehow.
I think the Gigabyte OC gaming is available, but I'm shopping that wonderful marketplace called Just
Micro
GPU.
Center.
No, Just GPU today.
That's Newegg has Just
It is.
GPU.
It is.
Okay.
Yeah.
You want to know the
But there's
best deal that I saw?
1269 one.
What, Josh?
MSI had an buy directly from them,
Okay.
and you go there, and everything is sold out except one. And it was a combo of a RTX 4090 with the X670E Godlike, and it listed the price as $1799, and you're like, oh, that how is this not sold out right now? And you click on it, and it takes you to a thing. It's like you need to add another option to this bundle, and you click the down arrow, and there's the MSI Godlike for $1,200. You click on that, and suddenly you're paying $3,000 for a motherboard and a video card. It's like, come on, you just
Okay, I'm forgetting that it was last generation. The Godlike was like $699, so I was kind of like, that's actually a good deal. It's like saving $100, but no.
Yeah,
the Godlike's like a $1,100 or $1,200 board now.
And by the way, it does look like you could have the privilege of going to your local Micro Center and forking over $1,200 to $1,400 for the privilege of buying one.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah, they've got them in stock in the stores through quite a few of them.
The RTX 4080, it's an XX80 card, like the 1080 and the 2080 and the 3080, right? And over time, costs have gone up, prices have gone up. And let's see, last generation, people were a little unhappy because $699 was the official, launch MSRP, although, of course, it was impossible to buy at the time. And they were selling for
quaint.
double that
in
the secondary market or more. But now we have a 70% increase over the RTX 3080 with the 4080, which is $1,199 as the starting list price. So I think that is the story. I've gone around and looked at other people's reviews, and for the most part, they're kind of shocked or incensed by the price, or it's just not a great value. I even tried going back and looking at history, like, okay, why don't we look at the old Best Buy website from 2006 when we had the last XTX card that I can remember anyway, the X1900 XTX from ATI, that was $599. And then at the time, the 7900 GTX OC from BFG was also $599.99. And adjusted for inflation, according to the inflation calculator at the BLS.gov site, those cards would be $882.98 today.
Discrepancy detected.
So yeah, I mean, I don't know if anything could adjust for the inflation we've seen just this year, but $900 is a lot of money. It was a lot of money back then. Those cards weren't even actually in the store. These were like online only. And now we have an $1,199 enthusiast flagship card, but because I would assume the 4090 just is in a different tier. I wouldn't. Is that an enthusiast card, or is that just like the Halo product?
It's Titan, the new Titan.
Yeah, the Titan without.
Yeah, but doesn't it beg the question? Why don't you just pony up the extra $100? For the 4090 if you're going to be you're in 4080 price tier.
Oh right, why? Yeah, the aftermarket 4080s. It stops making any sense very fast because you're not saving $400. You're spending list price on a 4090, which again, these prices, maybe Kyle was right. Maybe MSRP is dead. Not really. I mean, you can still buy like direct from AMD, and occasionally, different cards from different places will be at their list prices. But I don't know. This is all about price. It seems like a terrible value, but it is a piece of hardware. We could imagine the price is lower, or imagine they'll have to lower the price after AMD's cards come out. But for now, we're looking at a new GPU. It's AD103. It's not AD102. The card is the same. Like the cooler is the same. It's this massive overkill for what is a significantly smaller chip. This is a 379 millimeter square die versus 608, but they have the same cooler. It's crazy. And here's the part that concerned me. Just on paper, the memory bandwidth on the 4080 is only 716-ish gigabytes per second. Way back at the 3080, not the 3080 12 gig, not the 3080 Ti, The plain old 3080 had 760 gigabytes per second. The TI had 912. The 3090 had 936. 3090 Ti took that up to a terabyte per second, which is what we had with the 4090. And here we are with the 4080. 716. It's got way more level 2 cache, which obviously helps as we look at performance in a bit. But, I mean, plus it's 320 watts, just like the 3080 was. It's just, 70% more expensive and has less memory bandwidth.
Well, they had to find a way to GIMP this for differentiation, right?
But the memory data rate is crazy, though. That's the thing. They had to pump this up to an effective data rate of 22.4 gigabits per second. And by the way, the 4090 only has 21. To get that 700 number on a 256-bit bus. So, I don't know. Other specs include a huge disparity in CUDA cores as well from the 4090, which had 16,384. The 4080 only has 9,728. So it's a significantly lower performing card, as we will see.
It's a $400 difference between the two. And you'd think at $1,200, it would be beefier. It would be a cut down 4090 rather than its own GPU SKU, AD103, right?
Yeah. Yeah, you'd think it would be AD102 cut down, but that'll be the 4080 Ti. But the 4080 Ti should be $1,199. And this should be, at most, $899. Maybe if it trades blows with the AMD, it'll be $999. But why?
But they have price pressure. They have price pressure from their own 30 series. This is they have no way to kind of really slot this in.
And that's absolutely what it is, too. I mean, that's not what they're saying officially, but I mean, come on.
But that's clearly what's going on.
It's your fault for not buying up all those 3000 series cards.
Hey, they're out there.
You only have yourself to blame.
You have no excuse. You have no excuse for not buying a 3080 for $699 and up. So anyway,
and they're still not really on for sale either. I just wonder at Thanksgiving that hopefully we'll start seeing some actual GPU sales. Maybe it won't be until December or even just until January when AMD finally releases its top 2 SKUs that we'll hear about, a 4070 or the $699 4060.
Well, Josh, the 4080 12G is going to make a replay here pretty soon. We guess.
Oh yeah, it's going to be the
4070 Ti,
whatever.
Yeah, yeah.
The rumor on that.
Kind of already know.
I'm going to go on a.
Okay, Josh, let me give you the camera so you can go on a rant here.
So, I've been doing this for a long time. I've been enthused about computer hardware for ages. I read PC World nonstop back in the day. Through the 90s, the internet started up, 94, 95, and I found places like Tom's Hardware and some of the earlier places. And someone had recently brought this up as well, is that, CPUs were expensive back in the day. A Pentium 266 when it was released was a $1,500 chip. 386s in the early 90s were, still almost $1,000 for the top end. And, a 486 DX266 in 94 is, $600 to $700. But back then you still had options at the lower end that, really gave you a lot of bang for the buck. The Pentium MMX was still a great gaming CPU. AMD came out with the K6 and the K6 II. You still had the Cyrix stuff. Then, the K7 came out and, all the prices dropped down and you just had really interesting and exciting movement from just Intel being a monopoly and then charging what they want to actually having products out that were competitive. And I mean, we'd go back and forth and sure CPUs would reach $1,000 now and then. But it was always kind of exciting because there were other SKUs that you could actually buy that were interesting and motherboards didn't cost a lot. And 3D graphics were brand new. I mean, you could get a Voodoo Graphics, originally was a $399 part, and then memory prices dropped dramatically, and suddenly you could pick one up for $299, and a lot of people did. Well, a lot of people back in that day, which is only a fraction of what buy 3D graphics cards now, but still, every year it was something new. It was really exciting. It was, sometimes we'd go a couple of years without any really big jumps, but you'd have incremental ones, and you'd have pricing pressure that would often drive these things down. And really, budget enthusiasts really, they made hay back. I'm not trying to do a rose-colored glasses because not everything was perfect, but you could get a quad-core Phenom 2 for $200, and it was a perfectly fine gaming CPU. And you put it in a $100 motherboard, and memory was not terribly expensive, and it was a great time. And you would think that with a launch of next generation stuff that was fantastic in terms of performance, would be really exciting, but they've priced the excitement away. Even though AMD CPUs are kind of where they should be, when you start looking at the entire ecosystem that you have to buy into, it becomes very unfun. I mean, nobody wants to buy a 7600X and have to pair it with a $300 motherboard at the very lowest to get all of the features that they want. And it just, something that was a $400 price point for like a 5600X and a reasonable motherboard is now $200 to $300 more. And you're not even talking to memory. You can get 32 gigs of DDR4 3600 for less than $100 now of decent stuff. And to get a higher performance DDR5, you're looking at 220, if not a little higher. And I don't know if this is in direct relation to the industry overproducing things kind of in the first half of this year or the last half of last year. And we've got such a massive amount of unsold stuff sitting in warehouses and brick and mortar and all these other places that they've had to price them up high. But it's really kind of crushed a lot of people. And I say crushed because a lot of us go on with our days and we have our work and we have our kids, but we have hobbies. And PC, what we do here, it's a very enjoyable hobby for a lot of people, but not many of us anymore can afford even the mid-range of new stuff that is being offered. And so maybe this will not kill, but maybe it'll put a big dent in PC gaming. I don't know. But something's going to have to change because people are not making as much and cost of living adjustments are not as, coming down the road as fast as people are hoping. And these things just cost a lot of money.
I mean, if $1,000 is the
viable alternative,
there is a viable alternative. Get yourself an Xbox or a PS5.
Yeah, that's the problem.
The $500 is half of the cost of the new, savior of the PC gaming space, the new XTX from AMD. And for $499, if you can find it for that price in stock somewhere, you have to usually, what I did was I bought a bundle at GameStop and got a couple of games I didn't want, and a GameStop gift card that I used to buy a game I did want. But you can get a game system if you are patient. You can't get a GPU for $500, even if you are patient, not a new one, not a high-end one. And the consoles, they're pretty good. The quality of the graphics is high, and they're convenient. It used to be you could build a gaming PC for $400 or $500, and there's a popular video, or at least used to be on our YouTube channel. It was like how to build a system to beat the Xbox and the PlayStation for $400
for about the same price. Yeah.
I remember the tons and tons of articles at $500 build a PC. Tons.
Mm-hmm.
It was
back in the day. I did a article on building a $400 gaming PC, and then Patrick Norton picked it up and they did a video on die trying about it. And it was pretty low end, but it could still play just about anything you wanted at 1080. And forget that. Not under current market conditions. You have to use that hardware from that era. You're pretty much stuck with the Polaris card. Maybe you can get an RDNA 2 card for a pretty good deal. AM5 makes no sense for your typical enthusiast right now. So we were talking on our public Discord this morning. It's like, get an AM4 board get a cheap processor. They're selling those things like a 5800X, not the X3D, but a 5800X is like $250.
Mm-hmm.
And
yeah, less than that, $230 for on sale.
So really,
5600X is $150.
Yeah.
Well, one of the only things that's still making gaming possible is the game developers that are still targeting popular but lower end systems. And by that I mean just examine, one of the most popular ways of examining it is the Steam hardware survey. If you take a look at it, you'll see that the stalwart, the GTX 1060 6 gig is still the most popular CPU or GPU out there. And if game developers aren't going to continue to make a game that's playable on a system that has that as its featured GPU, then you're right, Josh. This hobby is lost to many people. But as long as they continue to do that, there's still a chance.
There, so many of the games we get now are ports anyway, because to make money, you have to have the game playable on like the Xbox and to a certain degree the PlayStation.
That's lower end hardware.
Lower end hardware. I mean, it's pretty high end, but it's not anywhere near flagship. Current GPU
there are
level.
two things, and I'm going to go back a little bit.
Okay.
Because you're right, there are two things that are kind of saving us. Is that AMD still offers the 6000 series, and they will for a while, and those prices, getting a 6600, an RX 6600, which is a great 1080p gaming card for around $200, is a good deal. Getting a 5600X CPU on a B550 motherboard for $100 to $80 to $100, that's a great deal. Memory, DDR4 is cheap. That's the solution for people who do want to build something with the enthusiast gamer. But the problem is, this is all 2-year-old technology that's been around. And
it's going to get harder to get.
It's not terribly exciting, is it? It's not something that really gets your blood racing.
Well,
can't wait to get home and open up those boxes and try out something new. It's known. You can't overclock any of them worth a damn, just because you can't overclock anything anymore unless you have liquid nitrogen. And so it's just kind of killed the enthusiasm.
The timing with NVIDIA, everything seems off. And I'm not worried about their financial position, as we'll discuss later. They're a company, they're a publicly traded company, so they have to have value for shareholders and all that. But they released products like the 3080 a couple of years ago that were they were really powerful, probably more powerful than they had to be. They could have been a little less powerful, a little cheaper, although looking back on it, and even at the time, if they had been available for those prices, like the 3060 Ti, I still think would have been such a great product at $399, and then eventually you would have found it on sale or maybe with some rebates, got it for less, and it was extremely good performance for $400. At the high end, there was a lot of complaining about the $699 price point, and then all of that just took a back seat to there's no availability, scalpers, bots. That was the narrative the whole time.
Crypto.
The only place you could ever find any of this stuff was on eBay for 50, 100,
double the price,
50%, of the price. So and this morning, after I found out that Newegg had been sold out of everything, I went on eBay reluctantly and looked, and there were 38 listings right away, like right after everything sold out. Some of them were just for confirmed orders, which I think get taken down. Some of them were actually in hand, where they'd stood in line somewhere. And there were already a bunch that had sold, and they're starting at about $1,600 and going up to $1,800. That will just go up. It's a temporary thing, but for the next few months, the only way to really get one, if you want one that bad, is to buy it on a place like eBay and pay like $300 or $400 extra so that they can cover all their final value fees and shipping, insurance, and all that stuff. So scalpers are going to keep scalping, and we're coming up on the holidays where people need extra money. And okay, I'll buy this card, I'll put it on a credit card, sell it on eBay, make a couple $100, and they do that.
Just remember, when you break through your 144 hertz display, that you're not doing yourself any good with your more powerful GPU. So, hey, I can get 200 frames a second now. Good for you.
Yeah.
Well, if you have a
Good
fast enough
for you.
CPU, you cannot if you have an older, slower CPU. Anyway,
Also true.
we should probably look at performance at least briefly, even though we think this product costs way too much money and it's depressing. If you
see
look
how it goes.
at just in relation to the 4090, and it's kind of in between the 4090 and the 3090 in performance. In Time Spy Extreme, which is a 4K DirectX 12 test, as you can see, the 4090 scored an average of 19,325, and the 4080 is at 14,026, which is well above the 10,515 of the 3090. So it's 27% slower in this test than the 4090, and that's about where it was the whole time. So it's somewhere between 25 and 30% slower than one and faster than the other. Here's Port Royal, 25,772 points. That's the GPU score for the 4090, and then 17,908 for the 4080. So significantly slower than the 4090 there. The 4090 is the absolute king of ray tracing performance. It's just got way more RT cores. Here's Metro Exodus Enhanced Edition, another ray tracing test. This is without DLSS, and it's at the extreme preset. The 4090 can do 94.41 frames per second on average at that extreme preset with no DLSS. The 4080 can do 68.87, so you're still above 60. The 3090, our overclocked MSI Supreme 3090, can do 50, almost 52 frames per second there, which is pretty close to what the 3080 does. So, I mean, coming from a 2080 Ti, which only does about 33, you're getting double the performance with the 4080. So I guess maybe that's the narrative. The 4080, it's double the performance of the 2080 Ti. And
it costs the same as the 2080 Ti 4 years ago.
Yeah.
Wow.
There's the marketing spin.
There you have it.
Mm-hmm.
Josh, you nailed it. I'm gonna email Brian tonight. Like, hey, Brian, Josh has it. I know that you're in charge of PR and stuff, but we're gonna take over.
Yeah, we got
Sebastian's numbers here are only comparable amongst themselves because he's testing ultra widescreen.
Right. So. Yeah, that's the other thing. These are all 3440 by 1440 highest preset settings, and they're all new tests too. So it's all on that later driver for all the cards that has the performance improvement for the 2000 series, 3000 series cards. The one that nullified all previous benchmark results. We can look at other results, but it's all the same. They all scale pretty much the same way. The 4080 is somewhere in between a 3090 and a 4090 as we knew it would be. Some people were saying that the 4080 wasn't even as fast as a 3090 Ti, or that was the rumor in some places, but that's not true. Because I don't have a 3090 Ti, I never had one. It's not 25% faster than a 3090.
No.
It's like 7%.
Yeah.
If you look at power, clock speeds, and thermals, this section of the review, if you can see this on the chart, the 4080 has slightly higher clocks in-game than the 4090 did, and it consumes a lot less power. It never hit the 320 mark. It comes close just momentarily. The most I ever saw on a spike was 318.9. Although I'm not using like the fastest polling equipment down to like a few milliseconds, but
would you say it's overcooled?
It's so cool.
I mean, I don't want to say it like that. What I mean is would you say that with the same...
Using the 4090 cooler is comical. This could easily be a dual slot card.
That was my point. That was my point. Yeah.
It's great because it's so quiet. I did some temperature testing, and I was looking at the fan speeds, and it's more efficient, and it's producing lower temps. It was like 3 or 4 degrees cooler on average, but that was with lower fan speeds. The fan speeds would be at least 100 RPMs below what the 4090 GPU required. Both of these cards, though, this cooler does move a lot of air, and it's quite efficient. It's, I think, easily the most impressive part of this whole launch today, actually, is that Founders Edition cooler. It's great, but you're paying $1,200 if you can find it at that price. So we have to wait. If you're a consumer, it's your responsibility to wait until the 7900 XTX and XT come out to see how they perform. Because if they end up trading blows with this card, and it just comes down to what games you play and at what resolution, which one is faster for you, you could potentially save hundreds buying the AMD solution. However, as Josh has warned us, they're not going to be available either. You're not going to be able to go out and buy the XTX for $999 whenever you want to. So, what if they end up being the same price in once the market decides, these perform about the same, so now they're both $1,500 and out of stock.
So does a 6950 XT for $785 sound like a pretty good deal right now?
The 6950 XT?
Yeah.
It's not awful, I guess.
That is a good. And under 800 is great because just
a couple of Micro Center.
1,000. Okay.
Yeah.
Micro Center.
Let's look at Newegg right now. Here is the current picture of in-stock availability of the 4080, and they're available. At least one is.
The lowest price in 30 days.
Yeah. Thanks, Newegg.
Well, yeah, sure.
The Gigabyte Gaming OC, just $1,269.99.
I dare you to click on add to cart and see what happens, because I'm betting it says, add to cart, and it's going to say, no, it has been added. Holy crap.
Yeah.
Don't
continue.
Get out of that.
Why? No.
Time for post-editing blurring.
No, who cares? That's my PCPer email. I don't care. It's SP.
People know that.
PCPer.com. That's out there on the web.
Yep. We all get the hate mail.
Email me. Because that's what the kids do these days.
That's crazy that there's still product that you can buy.
Crazy?
12 hours.
It would be crazy to buy this for $1,269.99, Josh. That's what's crazy.
I think the price has suppressed demand slightly. That's my opinion.
Well, that's
even though it's almost all sold out. It's almost all sold. Yes, but there is stock, though. That's the point. It's not all sold out.
You know what's crazy? What's really crazy?
What?
And my history is kind of viewing Intel and AMD. Right now, Intel has far more interesting products at reasonable price points across the board. Their motherboards are not at AMD prices. It's just, you can get something decent and the performance is right there. And like the 13700 series is a fantastic chip for what you pay. It's so bizarre. I'm in bizarro world. And the A770, if you can get one for $349, is a really good buy. And it's new and it's interesting. The drivers are not there yet, but they're constantly releasing new ones almost weekly.
They're committed to this product, and even though there's been rumors to the contrary, they keep on saying, "No, this is happening. We're going to continue making discrete graphics."
They just hired on some bigwig too.
Yeah, there's a new VP, general manager and vice president of discrete graphics at Intel. Cannot remember her name. Wasn't that Raj's job before? Wasn't he the VP of discrete?
He might have been. Then he got promoted.
Yeah, so now he's an executive vice president.
He's moving upwards.
By the way, in case you needed any context for why NVIDIA is charging $1199 for this card and why partners are charging, above that so they can make money too, just look at this tweet from videocards.com. Galax, I don't know how to pronounce it.
Galax.
I go with Galax.
They have now, as of today, 200 different RTX 30 SKUs. 200.
How?
Well, they had 187 custom designs on October 29. Now it's up to 200. So I think there's a few 30 series GPUs still floating around out there.
Yeah. That's weird because I bought this 3080 for $799 2 years ago. I was able to get a good deal on it. Obviously, and it's still running in there.
$699. I thought you got it direct from EVGA for $699.
No, EVGA for $799 because it was they had their kind of blah SKU for $749.
Oh, that's right. You got the.
They only made like 50 of those, and then the next one up, which is actually their only low one.
Yeah,
was $799.
Okay, all right. I forgot about that, and I edited the damn video, and I don't even remember that.
That's okay.
So. Do we want to talk about the 4080 anymore? I mean, it seems pretty obvious.
It's good performance. It's better than last year's, but
it's under price pressure.
Everybody's league.
Definitely consider the 30 series. here.
Yeah,
if it's
we're playing right into their hands. They've got us by the balls, and there's nothing we can do about it. If you want a new high-end GPU, you either wait for AMD and see what that's like, and if it's available at all, or you buy NVIDIA 30 series now, or just forget about that. You can find a good deal on like a 6950 XT. And really, the card to get right now, I saw this in the YouTube chat scrolling by earlier.
I saw it too.
6600 XT is such a good deal because you get, it's like 3060 territory where sometimes it's faster, I think, somewhere in there, but cheaper. The 3060s sell consistently for more. Do you really need, what was the 3060? 12 gigabytes of memory or something crazy like that? 10 gigabytes? I don't remember. So do you really need all that memory when you're playing at like 1440? No, you don't. So if you're like a 1080 or 1440 gamer, just get a 6600 XT for like $300.
Under $300.
Yeah,
under $300.
I've seen them for 280 recently.
The high-end Sapphire Nitro is mid threes, but that might be a little bit extra pricey on that.
I saw a comment about the 12V high power connector thing, but we will get into that whole.
We'll kind of cover that one too.
Let's take a break from NVIDIA and talk about NVIDIA financials. Josh,
perfect.
I think this will neatly illustrate why they might need to charge so much for their latest flagship GPU.
All right, I'm gonna take a break. I'll be back in 20 minutes.
Okay.
Yeah. So they announced their quarterly revenue and approximately for Q3, even though they call it Q3 FY fiscal year 2023, it's still this year, but it all has to do with IPOs and changing of accounting and stuff like that. But they made $5.9 billion as compared to Q3 last year, which was $7.1 billion. So there's a little negative price pressure there. Yeah. And Q2 of this year, they still made $6.7 billion. So Q3 is typically one of the stronger quarters of the year, followed by Q4, which again, holiday quarter, good money coming through. And that's not the case because they've been hit hard in the gaming section and the crypto, even though they don't really admit where those cards are going. It hit them hard, and they've oversupplied. It looks like their net income was $680 million, which is down quite a bit, 72% from last year. So yeah, they were living high on the hog last year. $2.5 billion in net income Q3 last year, and they're down to $680 million. That's pretty rough. Those are the GAAP numbers. Their data center still going strong. They have, that area seems to be almost bulletproof when it comes to spending, because right now the world is so data starved and processing starved for all the things that we want to do. They're riding that data center wave big time. Gaming and consumer down pretty dramatically. But overall, I mean, they're still staying afloat. They're still making money. They're about $300 million more in revenue this quarter than what AMD announced last quarter, if I remember correctly. And that is interesting how that has closed up because, from what Q1 of this year and the year before, they were typically around $2 billion more in revenue a quarter than what AMD was doing. So things are kind of doing some interesting evening out there of where they're sitting. But yeah, it's a down quarter for them. They spent too much and they're not selling enough, and it's hit the bottom line. And and I feel bad. I don't want to just keep harping on stuff, because as we mentioned before, it takes billions of dollars to develop these architectures and to bring them to market. And they've got to pay their workers. They've got to pay for, test foundry type work where they will hot lot wafers to get these designs back quickly so they can bring them more quickly to market. And that amount of money per wafer is 4 to 5 times what a regular one is. And we're not even talking about the set of masks that you need for these high-end 4 nanometer, 5 nanometer parts that a set of masks are like $100 million. It's just nuts. And you've got to eventually make that money back. And that's what they're doing. I mean, the bean counters are hitting us hard. And that's the world we kind of live in, which is disappointing in ways, but eventually things will calm down and we'll get better products at better pricing, or at least current products at better pricing, which we're already seeing.
We'll eventually get what is available now, but for a reasonable amount of money.
Yeah. And that's going to be time. But it's just, as an enthusiast, as somebody who covers this, who lives and breathes this and has done this for decades now. And it always is exciting when you get invited and you get NDA stuff and you look it over and you're like, this is really cool. This is great how, they're advancing the technology. They're adding these new features. They're, making the experience so much better. And they've done it, but it just
at what cost?
Yeah, it's the guy with the fishing pole. Oh, almost there. No. And this time they really reeled it up that most people can't even think about spending $1,200 on a video card when, they were scraping to get $699 at one point. And wages haven't really gone up too much and the cost of living has. So it's everybody's getting hit, but they're still making money. Their outlook for next quarter is about $6 billion. So plus or minus 2%. So I think they're going to be essentially flat. I don't know. Margins are still high, which is interesting. You'd think that they would be. Yeah, it's a lot of data center stuff. And still, you can get a 2-year-old RTX 3080 for over the official MSRP of $699.
Indeed.
I think you can get one for like $739. That's 2-year-old silicon being made on a 8 nanometer Samsung process that is not a fantastic process, and it is inexpensive at this time. So, I guess that's why their margins are as nice as they are.
Oh, on that uplifting note, we should pause for a word from this week's podcast sponsor.
I'm definitely someone that enjoys learning something new every day. And with the amount of technology we all deal with, that's usually a practical necessity. There's so much more out there, and you can make Masterclass a part of your lifelong learning right now. With Masterclass, you can learn from the world's best minds whenever you like, and at your own pace. Whatever you're interested in, there's a class for you. From music or writing, business and style, technology, even sports and government. It's fantastic. I've been taking a class on tactical empathy from Chris Voss, a former FBI lead kidnapping negotiator, and learning that everything in life comes from a negotiation of some sort. Super practical for me. Discover something entirely new from Chris Jenner on personal branding. Amp up your art and techniques in cooking with Gordon Ramsay. With over 150 classes from a range of world-class instructors, that thing you've always wanted to do is closer than you think. I recently learned that great negotiation is really about great collaboration, and that's already come in handy in my life. In addition to the classes, Masterclass has something new and more immersive called Sessions for deeper dives into lessons over a month long. Sessions include projects to submit for feedback and the opportunity to learn alongside your community of peers. So go and explore the full library in the Masterclass platform and take lessons in any order across your phone, tablet, Apple TV, computer, even on the go with an audio mode, from space flight to flights of fancy. I highly recommend you check it out. Hey, this holiday, give one annual membership and get one free. Go to masterclass.com/PCPer today. That's masterclass.com/PCPer. Terms apply.
We're back, and we are going to talk, finally, about the 12V high power connector saga, which it may be over. It may not be over, but we have Gamers Nexus, who has done what looks to be a pretty definitive video on the topic, and I urge you to go to their channel if you haven't watched it already and watch the whole thing. I watched it this morning, and it turns out, I'm sorry if you are loving this and gloating over this and you're on Team Red, turns out that it is almost assuredly happening because like the melting issue is happening because the cables have not been seated properly. And Steve Burke goes through this, and it's not like this. Like, not every case do you see it plugged in that poorly, like not even close. But
it's just air gapped.
There has been enough evidence collected by Steve and the people he's been working with to show you that, based on like markings on the connector, things like that, that the cards affected that they've been able to look at or investigate were all slightly unplugged. And the problem is this connector does not securely latch. And there isn't anything in place to cut off power when it detects that it's not fully latched. And what was very interesting about this is, I mean, the video is great from Gamers Nexus, and definitely watch that. But there was a post a few days ago about PCI SIG working on an update to the connector because of this problem. And you can see a before and after image here. They really should go with a metal clip. That's what they should do. But basically, anytime you see any kind of a gap at all, and this can happen after it's been installed. Like on the Gamers Nexus video, you go ahead and push it all the way in, and then you route your cables and a little bit of strain on the connector, a little too much strain on the connector, and it starts to pull itself out.
But doesn't it latch? Doesn't it latch? Isn't that what the point of the clip is?
It doesn't.
No.
Oh.
And you have to go, and for some reason, Johnny Guru, works for Corsair, has a personal blog. You have to go to the archive now because this post was taken down from his personal blog. But he did his own internal testing with a Corsair power supply and blogged about it, and basically did the same kind of stuff that Gamers Nexus was doing, just pushing this thing as far as it would go and measuring the temperatures and stressing the connectors and stressing them almost to the point of breaking. And then he got to the point where he's like, fine, I'll just break it off. So then he was breaking off connectors, and then he took off all but like the 4 center connectors. Where is that part? So this is all, let's see. I don't know where that part is anymore. But he did his own assessment and basically said it's insertion. It's not properly inserted, or it's getting pulled out. And ultimately, he said the conclusion is the adapters are fine. You just have to make sure the connector is fully inserted into your card and or PSU. That said, I will admit that the connectors are very difficult to insert completely. It's easy to think the connector is in all the way when it's not. If the retention clip is not engaged, you will be able to pull the connector back out without squeezing the clip.
Oh, so there is a retention clip.
It does actually retain.
Yeah. Okay. Like, you can say, oh, hogwash, this Gamers Nexus video is crap because absolutely I put it in all the way. Or they're saying they did put it in all the way. Well, sure, they did until some stress on the connector pulled it out because it wasn't actually clipped in. And I don't understand why a lot of the nicer SATA cables have a metal clip. There's plenty of connectors out there when they're supposed to be like mission critical that have a more robust connector retention clip on them. Yet, these are just all plastic, and the clip is really small. It's almost comically small and thin, considering how much power is going to go through something that can take 4 8-pin connectors. Some of these cards you're able to draw more than 600 watts, and it's going through something that may or may not be clipped in all the way. And I have gravity on my side because I've only used these cards on the open test bench. I have them plugged in and then through a couple of like Velcro straps and stuff. Basically, I have like a tower of PCIe power cables going to the GPU, so there's no stress at all. Even after benchmarking for hours, the connector never even gets warm. And then I read about these other issues and thinking, oh no, there's manufacturing defects, which, that could be, but this is from November 14. And of course, NVIDIA...
So old.
It is, as this story has has developed.
It's 2 days ago.
That's a long time ago. That was pre-Gamers Nexus, pre-GN.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
So they said they were continuing to investigate the reports. This is NVIDIA to Kit Guru. However, we don't have further details to share yet. NVIDIA and our partners are committed to supporting our customers and ensuring an expedited RMA process for them. Anybody who had this problem has had a new card from NVIDIA, as far as I know. And I believe people were getting Founders Edition cards even if they had some other aftermarket version.
And here's where the contrary to the one reported by Igor's lab, or information by Igor's.
Well, that's the thing. Like Gamers Nexus was a little bit more thorough because they found out that one of the second source for the adapter.
There's two sources.
That
two
has
makers.
its own second source. So then there's 3 sources for the adapter.
Oh.
And the one that Igor says, no, this is the good one. Actually, that's the one where that company outsources to another company. And he found he sent, just watch the Gamers Nexus video because there's under he sent it to some QA lab and they did extreme macro photography or microscope, looking at the connectors and finding tiny flaws. But ultimately, the only way that Gamers Nexus could do this, and they were trying to do it, they had the cameras rolling, they were trying to light one of these things on fire. And the only way they could do it was to slightly unseat the connector and then pull it in one direction. And when it was cockeyed and slightly out of its socket, that's when he could start melting the power connector. And if you look at the pictures of the melted connectors, they typically are melted towards one side or the other. And some of them are really
kind of
bad.
back and to the left.
No. He said it was towards the A, and NVIDIA was the way that they had to tilt the connector, which rose the other end, which is always the end that's the most damaged, I guess. Anyway, there's a whole method to it. They had figured out a way to repeat it, to consistently get the melting to happen. But it could not happen when the cable was fully seated in the connector. So,
well, at least
yes, Josh, you have to jam it all the way in. That's correct. Yes.
But it has to be in even under strain, which you won't even know because there may not even be a click. And it could come unstuck during shipping.
Come undone.
If you buy a system with this card, it's
Who knew ZIF cables were a bad idea?
That's 0 insertion force for those playing the home game.
Yeah, but ZIFs have a latching mechanism.
Well,
this isn't partial.
Maybe they should have one on this.
What was the other one? Low insertion force, LIF? This isn't a LIF socket. This is a 0 insertion force socket. It's hard to get these in smoothly. It's tempting to want to come in kind of slightly from the side, but you need to go straight down, and then you have to push all the way down. And then you have to make sure that the clip actually engaged because you don't hear a click because this thing is just too flimsy to click. Yeah, they need the Joy-Con click. Yes, you needed something more robust. It's like, hey, we're going to put all the power through one connector this time instead of 2 or 3. But let's use the flimsiest connector we've ever used for anything. Even a Molex connector is more robust than this.
True. Actually, unplugging Molexes can be a challenge.
Yeah,
they can be a pain in the butt.
Once it's in, it's in.
Yeah. Well, these things are still UL certified in that, and they go through rigorous testing. So if they're actually up to spec, then it's up to spec. And this kind of turned out to be a mountain out of a molehill.
But let's be honest a little bit. Do we like the fact that the new RX cards, the new AMD cards, do not use this connector?
It's definitely a good idea.
I thought for sure,
whether or not there's anything to the problem.
I thought for sure that they had changed their mind on that because of this. But there was no time.
You told us that these cards were locked in 2 years ago, 3 years ago. 3 years ago.
At the event, and I should have more stuff out about this because all the architectural details, the embargo was up on the 14th, and we could share slides. We could talk about the RDNA 3 architecture and all this stuff. But one of the things they told us during the media tech day was that this stuff was all decided 3 years ago. It takes a long time to develop a new graphics architecture and get everything going on a new process, and this has been in the works since 2019. So decisions about power connectors, that wasn't made, I think, until maybe a year ago, maybe 8 months ago.
Probably a year once they figured out.
Yeah.
So what kind of draw.
So they didn't know there was a controversy. They didn't know. They went with what they thought was going to be better, and it wasn't the 12-volt high power.
Well, and it makes sense. I mean, they're AMD. They're doing to GPUs what they did with CPUs from Zen on, and making them more compatible, using older peripheral type hardware, using slower memory initially, all those things, and pins rather than LGA. So AMD takes more of the risk, and the motherboard partners, don't have to spend as much money with the ZIF socket versus, LGA stuff. It makes sense that if you're not going to be pushing 600 watts, you can get away with 3 8-pins, and everybody who is their target enthusiast is going to have a power supply that's going to have at least 4 of those.
They tend to take the more affordable path when there's a decision to be made.
Yeah.
Oftentimes.
Should we talk about? We've talked about NVIDIA a lot, and AMD's name keeps on coming up. Let's talk about AMD some more, but this time it's the cash cow. It's EPYC.
Oh, yeah.
It's data center. It's making the most that you possibly can out of that wafer. Now we're not talking about GPUs. We're talking about EPYC 9004 series processors. And Serve the Home has been covering what is the event that's going on right now?
SC22.
Yeah. AMD EPYC Genoa. It's a game changer. Nothing short of a game changer, writes Patrick Kennedy at Serve the Home, which has rapidly become the sort of authority on all things like, non-consumer compute.
These new EPYC processors are kicking it, and they've got a tremendous amount of memory that they can address and a lot of bandwidth, and they've got a lot of cache in each of those chips. And CXL 1.1, 64 lanes of that. So that's a nice thing when you're gluing all of these large server chips together. And CXL is not just server chip, but also potentially to graphics chips and other accelerators. It's all, cache coherent communication with all of these different parts. And so, they've got a leg up with Genoa over everything that Intel has. And it's just insane what AMD is doing in the data center compared to what Intel is. And they're shipping these things far sooner than what Intel has. And overall, I mean, the Zen 4, with how they're handling AVX512, is so much more power efficient, but they still get like 90 to 95% of, maybe not 95% of the performance, but 85 to 90% of the performance. But you get that flexibility of being able to handle AVX512 and in high performance
and 192 cores per package, or something
nuts.
insane like that.
Well, it's 192 cores in a 2 CPU system.
Oh, two packages.
96 core processors. Because the EPYC 9654 is a 96 core processor.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
192 cores, 384 threads, and 768 megabytes of combined L3 cache.
They broke the old chess benchmark. Apparently, it stops being able to scale after 256 threads.
I don't even know how to benchmark 64 cores on 128 threads, but I mean, this is just a different world.
So AMD is kicking it. Their chiplets on CPU side, inexpensive to package as compared to like Sapphire Ridge, I think. Yeah, it's just nuts what they're doing with what they've got. And Zen 4 is a good CPU architecture.
And they finally got to use the Ryzen's naming scheme that we all hated, because that decoder that they were proposing for Ryzen, they are using for this. So there you go. So you got your product series, and it's not really, the core count sucks, because if you look at it, it's like a 0, well, there's 8, a 1, there's 16, 2, there's 24. Wait a second, 3, 32. Like it doesn't.
It's not even binary.
No, like it just, I hate it.
Just add another digit and list the core counts.
Like,
It's
seriously.
just an arbitrary table. Yeah.
964.
Yeah.
And don't forget about the performance
540.
rating. Just give me the core count. 964.
Because honestly,
410.
that counts more in your server room than the actual frequencies you're hitting.
Your parallel number of cores, yeah.
Of course, the performance is insane. The EPYC 9654 can compile the Linux 4.4.2 kernel from kernel.org over 100 times in an hour.
As you do.
The C-Ray test at 8K completes in 13 seconds. And of course, it breaks the chess benchmark because it doesn't handle more than 256 threads. So, whatever. Now, you will be pulling power. These are not ultra low wattage, but they're, 192 cores in the dual socket system. That's, 1,000, 1,200 watts. But hey, you're getting performance per watt from that too.
And they're not smoking connectors on this either, are they? Just an observation.
True.
Okay. Yeah, they're using industry standard connectors that, stay in place.
Just pointing it out. Josh, I had steered you to maybe segueing to this next one on memory controllers and why.
I can just quickly do this.
Okay.
Throughout history of computers, memory has always, pretty much always has lagged CPU performance. They get a new spec up there. It kind of matches, doesn't become as much of a bottleneck for CPUs. And then, of course, CPU speeds go up and the memory stays the same. And it takes years for a new spec to come out. And every time it does it, it doesn't add to performance. And so the CPU guys have always had to do a lot of different things to make their chips faster. Hey, let's create this thing called an L2 cache that we actually have it on the motherboard. It's very close to the socket and it's super low latency. May not be high bandwidth, but it's low latency, which is what is really kind of important. And then they got the L2 cache onto the CPU, and then they added the memory bus to the CPU, and all these things that they've tried to do to keep memory scaling performance kind of up to date with what CPUs does, and that's all through CPU design. And of course, we've gone to L3 caches, then we've gone to much larger L3 caches. And so AMD for Genoa as just an extremely wide memory bus running at fast DDR5 speeds. And of course, you've got the large L3 caches per chiplet that it relies upon. Intel is doing a little bit different. They're starting to think about putting HBM, high bandwidth memory, on the CPU. It's going to be like 64 gigs worth or something like that. And you could run the OS and whatnot off of that if you wanted to. But the way they're talking, it's going to be just a really, really fast local memory, high-speed cache. And then they're also thinking of potentially doing, some Optane style of memory that'll be mostly non-volatile. I don't always know how. Optane is interesting because it's super, super, super low latency. Again, not high bandwidth, but latency is the big thing that kills performance. And there's all kinds of good things as well. NVIDIA is doing LPDDR on their upcoming server chips, the Grace. So you've got a bunch of sticks of memory sitting on the substrate with it, as well as more main memory controllers. And they're trying to get around these things, especially in the data center, because memory technology just kind of sucks at scaling, and you run into the same problems. There may not be enough bandwidth for when you expand out the number of cores and number of jobs done. There's latency is always bad as compared to any kind of cache that is on the chip, or something that is a backside type cache, or the L3. So these are just some of the things that the major players are doing to relieve that memory pressure, because memory always sucks. Is that fast enough for you? Did I cover the things as I was supposed to? I have no idea.
Very quickly, and this is a video card story again, but this is an AMD thing they talked to us about at the event. There is a new, easy way to enable all of the applicable technologies that your game supports, and it's called HYPR-RX. This is starting next year, first half of 2023. There's going to be a toggle in the software that will, if the game supports it, turn on things like super resolution, Radeon boost, Radeon anti-lag. So it's going to be, there'll be game profiles. It'll automatically turn on whatever it can. You can see these little toggles here. Whatever is available will be enabled. And if the game doesn't support it, it just won't be toggled on. And it's nice. It's a nice idea that without having to dig through settings, and you don't have to even know what you're doing. You just have to touch this big button in the software and say, just turn on HYPR-RX, and then you'll get the absolute highest frame rate possible for you in that game.
There's a lot of stuff that's been in Radeon hardware and drivers over the years that have often had a, what do you want to call it, a parallel to something that NVIDIA was doing, but they haven't made it as easy to do, or maybe it hasn't performed quite as well, but they haven't made it as easy. I think making it accessible is the key to saying, oh, wow, the NVIDIA cards can perform just about as well in most cases as the equal to an NVIDIA card in many cases.
Yes. And easy software features are...
Absolutely.
Yeah. Let's quickly look at a couple of security stories. First, Google is apparently going to have to pay $391 million to settle the Android location tracking lawsuit. This is a story at Bleeping Computer from a couple of days ago. There was a coalition of attorneys general from 40 U.S. states involved in this privacy lawsuit. The search giant misled Android users and tracked their location since at least 2014. Oh, that's not all they did, but okay. Let's just worry about the location history thing. So, web and...
But my favorite part...
Yeah.
My favorite part is at the very end of the article where they explain why Google dropped the do no evil. So they were fined $2.72 billion in June of 2017, another $1.7 billion in March of 2019, another £220 million in June of 2021, 11.3 mil in November of 2021. France got them for about 170 mil. Australia got them for about 60 mil, and now we've got this, and it doesn't even make a dent in their bottom line.
Oh, of course not.
Or stop them from doing what they've been doing.
No, this is how they make money.
Do evil? That's okay.
I mean, it worked for Zuck, so just
right. What I heard was that this was basically against their system from a few years ago, and they look at it as like, oh yeah, we don't even do that anymore. That's in the past. We spy on you in a totally different way. Catch us if you can. Okay, I'm sort of editorializing through reading between the lines, but basically it's like, oh yeah, you won't catch us in that way anymore. That's so in the past. Forget about it. We'll pay that money and we've moved on. Yeah, we don't do it. Whatever.
Sticking with Bleeping Computer here for a minute. This is an update to ESET. Research had discovered and reported 3 vulnerabilities in Lenovo laptops' UEFI firmware of Lenovo notebooks, which allowed disabling secure boot or restoring factory default secure boot databases, all simply from an OS. That's been patched.
Yeah. They left some stuff in from the factory that would allow you to change the UEFI boot parameters from the OS. Oops. See the development drivers there, that bit there in the middle that would allow you to change secure boot settings from the OS. So if there was a way into the system, a hacker could alter the laptops or whatever the Lenovo system it was, to change its booting parameters so that those could be nefariously altered from the very beginning of the boot process, which is a bad look for any computers. Just, you don't want to do that.
Yeah, especially since, it's Lenovo. Most of these are going to be used in businesses.
Business, education, businesses, but oftentimes dealing with sensitive data or secure data or personal data that you really don't want to have to kind of broadcast out there. Secure. But the point of the we have 2 Security Corner articles this week, is they're both not necessarily bad news. Google, slap on the wrist, but at least somebody made billions and it wasn't Google. And Lenovo actually fixes something. So they're 2 good.
It was only millions.
News.
It was only 391 million.
Yeah. But the point is that for us, we often sort of dread coming to the security portion here because we're oftentimes detailing, your world is on fire. Please patch it.
So like every router in the world is insecure. Stop using the internet. Yeah. Any computer connected to the internet is compromised.
Right.
That kind of stuff.
We suggest you just turn off the power.
In lieu of gaming quick hits, all it says here in the show notes is just like a PSA? What is this?
Yes, it's a PSA. The advice here is relax. Reserve some time this week to play games. Invite some friends over.
Oh, hey, you know what? Next week, it's a big deal. It's Thanksgiving, right? Is that next week already?
Yeah.
It is. Yeah.
This year has been flying by.
Yep. So Wednesday, we're probably not going to have a show if you guys are all going to be with family. I know that I probably will as well.
Yeah. So I won't be around. I mean, who's going to edit it? Like, we have to.
And I'll be covering for all the Americans at work.
Yep. So yeah, this is if we're back after we took a week off. We're back for 2 weeks in a row. We're going to take another week off. I'm sorry. It's the holidays. We'll do this again probably December 25, whatever.
I'll see if I can't send you a video to edit in between now and then.
Oh, Lord. Thank you so much.
Oh,
but
Josh,
that'd be nice because I could set it to release, and that could be the holiday gift for everyone. Hey, a Josh
keeps on giving
review.
Josh, what are you reviewing, Josh? What do you got? What is it?
I have got a couple of different things that I could do. So
cool.
I like how it's mysterious.
Yes.
And open-ended.
It's pocket lint, isn't it?
It's a pile of Kleenexes.
Ooh, okay. We don't want to know.
That was my second guess.
Yeah, play a game. Play a game in DOSBox. This is my PSA. You don't have to have hardware. You don't even need a discrete graphics card. You just need something that will put a display signal out to some form of monitor, whether that be VGA, DVI, HDMI. Use your living room TV. Use an old CRT TV, a portable TV from the Goodwill for $10 if you can find one. And just play an old DOS game that you can find for free or pay like $1 for it on GOG. And they used to make really good games that were very fun to play. You get lost in them for hours and hours and hours. Forget about...
You only need 8 bits to have fun to play. Sometimes even 4 bits. But
I don't know about that.
8 bits.
I'm too young for like the whole Atari
256.
thing.
256 colors.
Well, yeah, 256 colors. You don't even need 256 colors. 16 colors is enough for me.
Okay. That's CGA.
No, it's EGA. There's EGA 16 color.
That's EGA.
EGA has a 16 color mode. Look it up.
I don't want to.
Okay. Hey, my original copy of The Secret of Monkey Island back here on 5 1/4 inch is 16 color.
5 1/4 inch floppies.
Yes. In fact, my Monkey Island 2 is 5 1/4 as well.
YouTube chat says CGA is 4 colors.
It was, what is it? Like cyan, magenta, white.
And this sort of burnt amber color.
Yeah, I don't know. Let's move on to picks of the week. Josh?
Let's.
Do you have one?
Yeah, you can go to Walmart and get a 32-inch 2560 by 1440 165 hertz monitor for $200 from LG.
Whoa.
What? HDR10. FreeSync.
32.
Hold on. What's so this is LG, so this is going to be IPS?
Doesn't seem
I don't know if it's IPS or TN, but
I don't think LG does TN 32-inch
I don't think so.
Do they?
No? Maybe? No? Not that I'm aware.
Spec
Do they have a super PVA that they did, or is it all just IPS?
I thought it was all IPS. Because there was a panel out there that was in some of these 32-inch monitors, the non-curved ones, that I thought was... Now I can't remember.
That one says VA.
Yeah, because there's VA panels out. This could just be LG branded. I didn't think they did VAs. But...
No, that Amazon.com link says it right there.
Okay.
Although it's Amazon, so who knows?
Here is the model 32GN600-B at LG.com.
Click on specs.
Clicking on specs.
You can quickly tell what 178, 178, so it's not TN.
It says VA. This is VA. Okay. Yeah. So it is that panel. It is the same panel I was thinking of. High refresh, though.
So there you have it. $200. That is dirt cheap.
Heck yeah, it is.
And I've got I got one of the curved versions. I can't remember which one. It may be Samsung, but it's a 32-inch. And that was on sale for like $278. And, you know, you're getting to that point where the pixels are pretty big. That's about as big as you want to go at that resolution. And even then, some people will probably be cranky. And there's a little bit of, you know, kind of a blurring scheme to it. And VA is not great for, you know, color reproduction, but the blacks are good.
It's really good exactly on angle. If you're right in front of it, it's fine. Just don't go 10 or 20 degrees off angle.
Yeah, but for that kind of money, you can deal with some of the downsides for that much stinking space at that refresh. I had to turn my 165 down to 144 because it would kind of ghost a little too much at that 165.
Jeremy, did you have a pick?
I'm sticking with a similar sort of theme, but this is for the Canadian branch.
Okay.
Because, I mean, good luck trying to get that monitor at that price up here. However, a slightly larger Samsung with a slightly higher resolution, one that you're quite familiar with benchmarking,
yes,
is not $499. There's another $190 instantly off of that. So it's only $310, which is not too bad at all for a 3440 by 1400 or 1440 75 hertz FreeSync monitor.
Is this curved or this looks flat?
It's pretty flat.
That's a big flat screen.
I know it is.
I think the curve though.
But at 75 hertz is probably one of the first generation 34-inch wide screens, ultra wide. Sorry,
it's not brand new, but hey, we've all got to penny pinch a little bit. And if you're looking for a nice, seriously ultra wide with a decent FreeSync support, and you don't want to be spending $1,000 on it, it's a good way to go.
And some people are just not into the curve thing at all. The one thing that curved really does help with, though, is if you have a VA panel like this, it actually helps you when it's that wide because then you never have any off-axis colors. But if you don't sit right up,
but I'm going to be the only one looking at it.
Yeah, if you're like, you know, if it's on the back of the desk and you're sitting back, I think it's probably fine. Plus, that thing would look fantastic watching movies on it. Letterbox movies with no letterboxing, VA black levels.
Except Disney Plus and their stupid scaling on a PC screen.
Oh,
they have it in the 3440 by 14, you know, aspect ratio. But then they letterbox everything instead of popping it out.
Oh, perfect!
I hate it. Hate it.
So it's like watching high def signal through standard def cable on a high def TV. So it's letterboxed inside of a letterbox, and then it's stretched to fill your screen.
That sounds horrible.
No, and then stretch it and fill it.
Yeah.
It's got 4 black bars all around it when it doesn't need to. Netflix does it right. Yep. Disney Plus can't yet.
That's pathetic.
And they're charging me more money starting next month.
Well, you should have bought the Disney branded TV because then it would work.
Does it have mouse ears on the top of it? No, a bright colored plastic shell. By the way, speaking of, you know, obviously next week is Thanksgiving here in the U.S. And we're talking about, you know, weird aspect ratios and questionable display quality. It's that time of year again where you visit family and have to deal with their horrifying settings on their TV, or in my case, going to the in-laws who have standard definition cable on a like 42-inch high definition TV in the living room, which stretched in all directions because they want to fill the screen. So then, the 4:3 16:9 letterbox gets zoomed in all directions until it's so blurry and indistinct. I don't even think it's like 360p quality, like a YouTube 360p experience.
Did you ever think about going in the middle of the night and replacing the cabling? Just
it's not the cabling; it's the cable. Like they pay for It's Comcast, I think, or Spectrum cable, but they're grandfathered into a standard def package that he will not let go of. And so
you could make a great Taster's Choice type commercial with flavor crystals.
It's like, I replaced your bullshit definition TV that looks like Vaseline is smeared all over the screen.
Moving along. Moving along.
Brett,
speaking of which,
Brett, I only want to say that, Jeremy, I really enjoy the curved displays at ultra wide. So I'm not all about that flat panel. I really think the curved one is better. I'm not picking a monitor.
It was significantly more expensive.
Sorry, this is a monitors only picks of the week.
Usually I pick a monitor, but this time
what's behind you? What's behind you on the monitor?
Oh, that's actually my pick. That's my pick.
Wait, your pick is an ultra wide monitor with this game on it.
It is Fallout New Vegas. And if you're not a Prime member, for goodness sakes, what's wrong with you? Go get your free Fallout New Vegas. Please.
It's free?
Please. It's
I'm a
free.
Prime member.
Yeah. Yes, it's free. Just go get your claim code now.
Claim now.
Wait. So on GOG.com is where they're giving it, or is it on Prime? I don't understand.
You have to go to Prime,
PC and GOG.
Prime Gaming.
Get your claim code.
You claim it. You go
claim
to
it. They give you code.
Your GOG and buy it there. You paste in the code they give you.
Yep.
Gotcha.
And
you're good to go. And Fallout New Vegas is a really, really excellent version of, the Fallout game genre. If you have never played it, which I can't imagine that maybe some people haven't, Fallout New Vegas is a really good example of the Fallout gaming shtick. Go get it for free if you're a Prime member.
Is it a isometric view like the original Fallout?
No.
Oh, okay.
It's Fallout.
No, it's not.
But it's still good. It's very good. It even has crafting, of course.
Ooh. Okay, just like last week when I picked some old AMD processor that was still sealed in the box you could buy on eBay for a good price, I'm going to do it again. But this time, it's not that old. It's only like a year old. It's Zen 4? Wait, no, Zen 3.
No,
I
Zen
can't
3.
think. It's AM4
Zen
3.
This is positively fresh for you. I don't understand.
Yeah, this is the newest hardware I will allow. It has to be at least last gen. So I don't know what you feel about Ant Online. I guess there's some people who are opposed to purchasing from them.
Ants?
I have bought from them before, and I get a sealed retail box, and it's fine. So I don't know. But Ant Online on eBay has the 5800X 3D, brand new, for $339.99. Now that is $10 above the $329.99, where it briefly was available from AMD.com, BestBuy.com, and a couple of other places, like Adorama has it, but it's, back ordered, like everything at Adorama always is when it's out of stock. But you can get this right now for $339.99 with free shipping and handling.
More than 10 available.
Yes.
This was in stock the other day, and then they sold out.
Mm-hmm.
And now it's in stock again, so it's not going to last forever. It just says more than 10 available. I don't know what that is.
Yeah.
It could be 11.
So
it could be 1,000.
As far as I know, AMD is still producing the 5800X 3D. It's not EOL yet, but I wouldn't expect that to be true after the first of this year for reasons. So yeah. Think about picking one up. It was just like the what was the one Intel did that had the big chunk of L4 cache, essentially, of the graphics. It was after Ivy Bridge. It was Broadwell? Broadwell? Is that the one?
Oh, yeah, Broadwell, which had like 2 SKUs, and it was mostly just in Macs.
Yeah.
I have a MacBook Pro.
No, the 5775, I think, was the
that's the one. That's the one I'm trying to remember.
With the E cache or whatever.
Yep.
Right? Yeah.
It was a great gaming processor for the day.
Well, looks like the 5800X non-3D is very competitively priced as well at around $240, $248.
Yeah, they're cheap as chips now.
Yeah, if you're
the
okay
5000
with
SKU.
if you're okay with not having all the cash that the X3D gives you, it's a fantastic deal to get a 5800X. I mean, there's a reason that for a good year or so, our gaming test bed platform here in-house was a 5800X. Because it was just tremendously fast gaming CPU that didn't hold back graphics cards up until like the very latest ones, where you could start to see the effects and had to move on to a faster CPU. But the 5800X 3D is still one of the fastest CPUs ever made for gaming. And you can get it for $339. Forget about $699 plus an expensive AM5 board and DDR5 memory. Just get a 5800X 3D and find
You'll be
yourself
happily gaming for years.
And get yourself a 6600 XT. Go all Team Red if that's what you want to do, and you're going to be very happy.
You're describing my 2-year-old build.
Yeah, and it's aged.
Yeah, but it's only a 6-month-old processor.
Yeah. Josh, do you have an outro in your system? Hey, even if it takes you a couple of tries. Last week's outro, by the way, if you haven't watched podcast 699, was epic. Yeah. There was 2. You got 2 outros for the price of 1. Maybe you'll get it in one take this time. Josh, collect yourself.
I have not watched that. Maybe I should, because I need to be horrified. And the horror will inspire me to do better. Well, this has been the PC Perspective Podcast. We enjoy spending our Wednesday nights with you. Maybe not you in particular, but more of the royal you. And even though things may seem a little down, world seems a little cold, mainly because it's November, and that the PC parts people don't seem to care for you very much. Remember that money solves all things. And if these people don't get money, eventually they will want it. And they will do many things for money. And that may include finally cutting down prices, which are palatable for people like you and me. It just takes time and patience. And not throwing your credit card at the screen when something suddenly becomes available. So these are life lessons that we should all learn, and sadly in my 20s I did not pay attention to. And I lost all my hair and I couldn't afford Rogaine. And that's where we're at. So yeah, save money for Rogaine.
You heard it here first, kids.
All right, yeah, that was okay.
Yeah, okay. Also, Josh, the internet wants to know why you have Jif peanut butter on the desk behind you.